A very good morning to all of you. So in today's video, I'll share all the must-read topics for UG student that you have to study before your university exam. Okay. So these are the most important topics in whole biochemistry, and you cannot even skip all these topics before you are going to your university exam. And for PG student, I'll share some another video for PGs. All right. So this is preferably for UG students. So let's start it. First, the chapter is cell. In cell, the important LAQ is that please frequently ask what is different type of transport mechanism and give example of transport mechanism. And one question is also included in that is what is the role of glucose in ORS solution. Alright, so this is first. Another question in this topic is that of short note. Short note that is frequently asked that of fluid mosaic model. It's very important short note that is of fluid mosaic model. Then sometimes short note asks individually on transport mechanism, like short note can become on active transport, facilitated diffusion, alright. And sometimes one short note is also frequently asked, that is what is the receptor mediated endocytosis, alright. So these questions comes as a short note. Another short note at UG is that of what are the different marker enzymes of subcellular organelle. Okay, then you have to write all the marker enzymes of every subcellular organelle in this question. Alright. Another question is on mitochondria. Is LAQ can be asked. Why write the structure and function of mitochondria? Why mitochondria is known as powerhouse of cell? And what is the difference between mitochondrial DNA and nuclear DNA? Alright. So that's all important topics in cell. Now comes on the chemistry. First, carbohydrate chemistry. In carbohydrate chemistry, first thing you have to study define carbohydrate and classification of carbohydrates. Asked as a short note. Second important short note is that of heteropolysaccharide. Heteropolysaccharide asked as a simply as a short note. Another important LAQ or sometimes asked as a short note also. If LAQ will come, then on GAX. GAX is one of the most important topic. Like LAQ is that what are the mucopolysaccharides or what are the glycosaminoglycans? Why these glycosaminoglycans or GAX are slippery in nature? Give example of each of the mucopolysaccharides and gives the disorders associated with the mucopolysaccharide. That in that case you have to write all the mucopolysaccharidosis disorder like Hunter, Hurler, Sanfilippo and all. Alright. So this comes, or sometimes simply short note comes on GAX. Alright. One important short note is that of why sucrose is known as invert sugar. Okay, that is also comes as a short note. So, and another short note is that of dietary fibers. Dietary fibers asked as a short note and glycemic index. Okay, so dietary fiber and glycemic index you have to prepare for short note. No LAQ never ever come on this topic. So you have to prepare accordingly as a short note. Alright. Now comes on the carbohydrate metabolism. In carbohydrate metabolism, you must read first Rappaport-Levering cycle and what is the significance of 2,3-BPG in human body. Okay. Another question is that of in TCA cycle, the frequently asked question is the what is the amphibolic role and what is the anaplerotic role of TCA cycle. These two questions you have to read. Okay. Next is that of LAQ, which is frequently asked, is that of what is gluconeogenesis and from which products these newly formed glucose is synthesized, how gluconeogenesis is regulated. Okay, so gluconeogenesis. Another important LAQ is that of glycogen metabolism. In glycogen metabolism, you read both glycogenesis as well as glycogenolysis. Both the cycle you have to read along with its regulation. Okay. Next question comes is that of glycogen storage disorders. Very important. Okay, and you have to write in that serial order. Okay, what are the different type of glycogen storage disorder? All right. Then short note in glycogen storage disorder, von Guericke's disease. Okay, so von Guericke's disease individually comes as a short note, like what is von Guericke's disease, which enzyme is deficient in von Guericke's disease, and write the clinical features of von Guericke's disease along with this biochemical explanation. So you have to write all this in this topic. Alright. Next is the HMP shunt. HMP shunt, what kind of question is that? What is HMP shunt? Why it is known as shunt pathway? Why it is known as shunt pathway? What is the significance of HMP shunt? Okay. What is the significance of HMP-tion? Then you have to write both for both NADPH also and pentose sugar also. Alright. And what is G6PD deficiency? And in G6PD deficiency, short note individually can be asked. Okay. And individually short note comes as a what is significance of HMP-tion. Alright. Next is that of in galactosemia. Galactosemia, what you must read at UG level, what is classical galactosemia and what are the features of classical galactosemia. Okay. And classical galactosemia is also important for MCQ and also for case-based question. So when the case-based question will come, then galactosemia is one of the important topics. Next LAQ is that blood glucose regulation. It's very important as a LAQ. How the blood glucose is regulated in body, explain. It is asked as a LAQ. Next important thing you have to study, what is diabetes mellitus? What are different types of diabetes mellitus? Write the management and clinical features of diabetes mellitus. Okay. And DKA, diabetic ketoacidosis, short note asked or it is added in a LAQ. Alright. So this is all about one important short note also is that of PDH complex, pyruvate dehydrogenase complex, asked frequently as a short note only. Okay, so this is all about in the carbohydrate chemistry and carbohydrate metabolism. Now comes on the lipid chemistry and lipid metabolism. In lipid chemistry, must read topics that define lipids and classification of lipids as a short note. Another important short note is that of phospholipids. Phospholipid is very important as a short note. Another short note is that of eicosanoids. Eicosanoid asked as a short note, and if long question will come, then they will ask what are the eicosanoids, how the eicosanoids are synthesized in the body, and what is the clinical significance of different prostaglandin. It can be asked as a LAQ in this form also. Okay. Next short note is that of respiratory distress syndrome. So what is respiratory distress syndrome? And it can be also asked in another way as respiratory distress syndrome is also known as hyaline membrane disease. So short note can be asked as a respiratory distress syndrome or short note can be asked as a hyaline membrane disease. Okay. And another question is that of define lipoprotein and what are the different classes of lipoproteins. It can be asked as a short note. Okay. So this is all about in your lipid chemistry. Now comes on the lipid metabolism. In lipid metabolism, one of the important topic is that of beta oxidation of fatty acid. So you have to read what is the beta oxidation of fatty acid, okay, and how this cycle is regulated and what are the energetics of beta oxidation. Question will be asked like that. Important LAQ is that of cholesterol synthesis. How cholesterol is synthesized in the body and what are the different degraded product of cholesterol. It can be asked as a LAQ. Alright. Next important thing is that of ketone body synthesis. Okay, it's very important, ketone body synthesis. So how ketone bodies are synthesized in the body and what is ketonemia and ketonuria. And one important question is also added, why liver cannot utilize itself the ketone bodies. Okay, so you have to write why liver cannot utilize the ketone body itself. Alright. Next important question is that of comes on the lipoprotein metabolism. One of the important lipoprotein metabolism frequently asked is that of chylomicron metabolism. How chylomicrons are metabolized in the body. Another important is that of HDL metabolism. Question can be asked, why HDL is known as good cholesterol and what is reverse transport cholesterol mechanism associated with the HDL. This kind of question is asked in HDL. Okay. Next short note. Short note in lipid metabolism is fatty liver. Define fatty liver and what are the lipotrophic factors. Comes as a short note. Another short note is that of metabolic syndrome. Okay. So what is metabolic syndrome and define different features of metabolic syndrome. It can be asked as a short note. Okay. So this is all about your lipid chemistry and lipid metabolism. Now comes on the protein chemistry and protein metabolism. In protein chemistry, must read a classification of amino acid. Okay. Short note can be asked as a define the classification of amino acid. Another LAQ which is frequently asked is that of what is the structural organization of protein. LAQ. What is the structural organization of protein? Okay. Next is that of short note is asked is that of plasma proteins. What are plasma proteins and what are the different disorders associated with the plasma proteins? Okay. And another important topic is that of short note can be asked on immunoglobulins. Okay. So immunoglobulins can be asked as a short note. Another important short note is that of biologically important peptides. It comes as a short note, biologically important peptides. Okay. So this is all about in your protein chemistry. Now comes on protein metabolism. In protein metabolism, urea cycle is one of the most important topic. Okay. So in urea cycle, it comes as a LAQ. What is urea cycle? Define the different disorders associated with the urea cycle, and one additional question is added: why ammonia is toxic to the body? Explain. Or short note can be asked simply as a why ammonia is toxic to the body and why ammonia causes hepatic encephalopathy. Explain it. It can be asked individually as a short note. Okay, this is in urea cycle. Next important is that of phenylalanine and tyrosine metabolism. Whole phenylalanine, whole tyrosine metabolism is important along with its disorder. Okay, like you must read phenylketonuria, alkaptonuria as a short note. And short note can be asked what are the specialized product of tyrosine. Okay, important. Next is that of in individual metabolism of amino acid, you must read glycine. How glycine is synthesized in the body and what are the products which are formed from the glycine. Okay, so glycine metabolism you must read. And another short note is important is that of homocystinemia. Short note asked as a what is so homocystinemia? It can be asked as a short note. Okay, and one important thing is that of folate trap. Okay, in sulfur containing amino acid, short note, very important short note is what is folate trap. So you must read what is folate trap. Okay, so and one short note also frequently asked what is the maple syrup urine disease. Sometimes short note come as a maple syrup urine disease. For maple syrup urine disease, you have to prepare as a short note. All right. So now comes another topic is that of biological oxidation. In biological oxidation, you must read what is the electron transport chain, define oxidative phosphorylation, what is chemiosmotic theory, and what are the different inhibitors and uncouplers of electron transport chain. Okay, so these the must read topics in biological oxidation. All right, you cannot skip it. Now comes on the nucleotide chemistry and metabolism. In nucleotide chemistry and metabolism, important is the short note is that of biologically important nucleotides. Biologically important nucleotides asked as a short note. Another short note is that of nucleotide analogs. Okay, these two questions asked as a short note. Another important topic is that gout. Gout is very important. Okay, gout can be asked as a simply asked as a short note also come. Otherwise, long question can be asked like define gout, how it is the risk factor associated with the gout, and how you will treat the patient of gout. Okay, and what is the mechanism of action of allopurinol drug in gout treatment. Alright. Next important is that of salvage pathway. Salvage pathway asked as a short note. What is salvage pathway? You can be asked simply as a short note. Another important short note is that of Lesch-Nyhan syndrome. Lesch-Nyhan syndrome is asked as a short note. Another short note in this topic is that of orotic aciduria. Okay. So Lesch-Nyhan syndrome, salvage pathway, orotic aciduria, you have to prepare for short note. Alright. Now comes on the heme metabolism. So in heme metabolism, must read is how heme is synthesized in the body. First question: what are different types of what are the different types of porphyria and how porphyria are managed in the body? Okay. So heme synthesis, whole heme synthesis you read. All kind of porphyria you must read along with the treatment and clinical feature. Okay. Another is that of heme catabolism. How heme is catabolized in the body. So you have to write everything how heme is catabolized. And now comes on the jaundice. Define jaundice. What are the different types of jaundice? How you will clinically diagnose the different type of jaundice. Okay. So jaundice is also one of the important topics. Next is that of short note is that of sickle cell anemia and thalassemia. So sickle cell anemia and thalassemia can be asked as a short note individually. Alright. Now comes on vitamins. The important vitamins for LAQ is that of vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin D. Okay. So A, C, D you have to prepare for your long answer question LAQ. Short note. For short note, world visual cycle asked as a simply as a short note. Short note, very short note. Pellagra comes as a short note. Okay. And important vitamins for short note you have to prepare is that of niacin. Simply niacin can be asked as a short note, and like your B12. Vitamin B12 asked as a short note. Okay, so B12 you have to prepare for your short note. And important another vitamin for short note is that of vitamin K. Okay, so these are the important vitamins for your short note, and A, C, D you have to prepare as a LAQ. Alright. Now comes on mineral metabolism. Important mineral is that of calcium. How calcium what are the dietary sources of calcium, what is the RDA of calcium, and how the calcium homeostasis is maintained in the body, and what are the clinical features associated with the hypocalcemia and hypercalcemia. Okay, so question can be asked as a LAQ in this way on calcium. Another is that of iron. Iron is one of the most important topic. Okay, so iron you have to, what are the different dietary sources of iron, what is the RDA of iron, what disorders associated with the iron metabolism, and important topics that of what is mucosal block theory in iron metabolism, and short note individually asked in the mucosal block theory. Okay, so mucosal block theory and how iron absorption occur in the body can be asked simply as a short note, or it can be included in the LAQ. Okay, another mineral metabolism is that of copper. Copper asked as simply as a short note, or in copper short note comes as a Wilson disease. Short note comes on the Wilson disease. What are the Wilson disease and what are the different clinical features and treatment of Wilson disease? Alright, and another is that of sodium and potassium. Sometimes long question can be asked on the sodium and potassium homeostasis, how sodium and potassium homeostasis is maintained, what are the different type of disorders associated, and how you will treat. Alright, so this is in that's all about in mineral metabolism. Now comes another topic, that of nutrition. Nutrition must read topic is what is protein energy malnutrition, what is difference between Kwashiorkor and marasmus. Okay, and on Kwashiorkor and marasmus case-based question can be asked, okay, frequently. Another is that of BMR, basal metabolic rate, asked as a short note. Another short note is that of your SGA, specific dynamic action, can be asked as a short note. And another is that of balanced diet. Okay, so these are the important question in your nutrition. And another short note is also frequently asked, that of obesity. Obesity can also ask as a short note. Now comes on acid-base balance. Acid-base balance, this whole chapter is important. You cannot skip anything. You must read all kind of alkalosis, acidosis, like metabolic, respiratory acidosis, metabolic and respiratory alkalosis, along with this clinical feature and your treatment, and what is the anion gap. Okay, what is the significance of anion gap. So this whole chapter is important, and this chapter is important for like Viva. This chapter is important as a MCQ and your case-based question. So in acid-base balance, everything you have to read. Okay. Now comes an important topic is that of enzymes. In enzymes, the question is asked as a define enzyme and what is the classification of enzyme. Short note. Another is that of factors affecting enzyme activity. Okay, so you have to write factor affecting enzyme activity. Another question is that of what is the mechanism of enzyme action. Mechanism of enzyme action sometimes also as a LAQ asked. Okay. Another is that of isoenzyme. So question can be asked, define isoenzyme with its example and what is the clinical significance of isoenzymes. Alright. Another important topic is that of cardiobiomarkers. Very important. And in biomarkers, the question sometimes added, what are the different cardiobiomarkers, what is its clinical significance, and also write some newer invented cardiobiomarkers. Okay, so you have to write the newly invented cardiobiomarkers also in this question. Okay, then what is the therapeutic uses of enzyme? It's very important. What is the therapeutic uses of enzyme? Another question you must read is that of enzyme inhibition. And what are the different type of enzyme inhibition and what is the clinical significance of competitive enzyme inhibition. Okay, and in Lineweaver-Burke plot. So in Lineweaver-Burke plot, you have to know for your Lineweaver-Burke plot, you must know for your MCQ and your case-based study. So in today's video, that's all today. In another video, we will cover an important topic. Alright. So thank you so much.